You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello everybody and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. We have made it to Friday and it's exciting to get to this point, and a brilliant guest on the show for you tonight who's got an amazing career all across the creative worlds and leading into his novels. Since 2020, it's been insane, his career, so we'll get into that as well. I'm happy to be on a Friday, but a great show on Wednesday with Lizzie Barber. If you haven't checked that out, please go and do so. And I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Hooley. Hello, Chris. How are you doing?
Radula, Chris. How are you?
Radula? Please explain.
So, well, I wasn't going to explain. Anyone who's watching, you go and find out what a radula is, and you can get back to us. Or even if you're listening to this, find out what it is and get back to us. So, yeah, there we go.
Cryptic, Chris. Just to say, yeah, Deeth Gwyl Dewi Hapus as well. Happy St. David's Day. Hello to you says happy Friday and happy March, St. David's Day. Halo says Radula. I missed this has gone straight over my head. Hello to you and Annie that's tuning in. Thank you so much for doing that. It's going to be a great show. Ross's favorite thing?
Yeah, is Radula.
Okay,
I like to think of it as tequila, but you say Radula instead. Radula. Radula.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so it's been a good week. We've had that extra show thrown in there on Wednesday. We're booked up all the way until May. At some stage, we're trying to get the Jonathan Stroud interview second part to come back on. We're trying to find a Friday for him, and yeah, it's all kind of go on the show at the moment. There's lots of stuff going on. We're very busy, but it's going well, and we're glad to be back on the show, right, Chris?
Yeah. Do you know what I keep seeing on TikTok at the minute? It's those little videos of people who are voiceover actors, and they're like, right. I'm a voiceover actor, and it shows their thing. And I was watching them all, and a guy came up and he was like, I'm a voiceover actor. And I was like, he does the Writing Community Chat Show voice. And he had like over 100,000 views on TikTok and stuff. But it made me, when you said about setting up the Jonathan Stroud part 2, it was like, Jonathan Stroud part 2 coming before May. That's what I kind of wanted to do.
Yeah, I've completely blanked and forgotten his name, but yes, he does the intro to our show, and he used to do all the Odeon voiceovers and ITV voice things, and it'll come to me. I'm so sorry I've forgotten his name right now. But yeah. Anyway, we'll move on, and it'll come back to me. So let me get tonight's guest on, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about. And please, guys, if you've got questions, send them in the chat. And remember, there's a section at the end as well if you want to save them up. And also, if you're interested, if you're not a patron of ours yet, you can join the Patreon and come on to the after shows that we do on a Friday, where me and Chris will go, not live, but a recorded show where you guys, if you're a patron, can join us and chat to us a bit more intimately. And we'll talk about the show and all that good stuff. So if you're interested, look in the link in the description and you can join in there, and we'll send you an invite if that's what you want to do. So please hit the like button as well. That helps. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome today's guest. We are honored to welcome him, the mastermind behind the captivating DI Ruth Hunter crime thriller series and the best-selling The Snowdonia Killings. None other than Simon McCleave is joining us. The Snowdonia Killings was released in January in 2020 and soon became an Amazon bestseller, reaching #1 in the Amazon UK chart and selling over 300,000 copies. Since that release in 2020, Simon has sold over 1.5 million books in just 4 years, incredible, and has received countless amazing reviews. On the 27th of this month, the amazing 18th book in that series, which is The Chester Killings, will be released, and you can see that up in the top corner, looking lovely. So get ready for an exhilarating journey filled with suspense, intrigue, and a sprinkle of literary magic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Simon McCleave. Hello, Simon.
Hi. Hi guys, how you doing?
We're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us on a Friday evening.
No problem.
Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm all right. Yeah. I'm just finishing off a couple of books. So I've been writing all day, but it's nice to do something. It's nice to have some human contact,
Yeah,
even if it is online.
Yeah, I mean, don't make us feel too bad. Just finishing off a couple of books there, Simon.
Oh well, it's just the way my deadlines have run. So it's been a bit insane. But as of next week, I've got some time off. So
nice. I thought you were going to say just finishing off a couple of beers, but books. Yeah, I mean, fair play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing to finish off a couple of books. For me, that would be very complicated, and most people think that would be very complicated. We normally do a bit more of a random chat right now, but I'm interested to know how you can manage doing that when you've got all the different stories mashed up in your head.
With great difficulty, but I mean, I have just about done it. It's nearly killed me this month. I'm doing a standalone psychological thriller, which is set in Tuscany, which is obviously completely different. And then I've just finished the Chester Killings, the final draft. So yeah, juggling those two things has been stressful.
Yeah,
but I'm going to kind of collapse next week, so I think I'm probably going to lie in a dark room for a while.
Oh wow, yeah. So a welcomed week off then. Have you got any exciting plans for that week off?
Yeah, I'm going with my son, and we're doing a little jaunt across Europe on the train. So we're going to Paris, and then we're going to go and see Bayern Munich play in Munich tomorrow week, Saturday. So
that sounds amazing.
Yeah, so we're sort of trying to go and see as many. Sort of each year we're going to pick a team, and last year we went to see Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. So I asked him this year, where do you want to go? And he said, can we go and see Bayern Munich play? So that's what we're going to do. So yeah, that'll be good stuff.
Who are they playing?
Really making the most of it, yeah.
It's a team that I can't even remember now because they're so small. But it was just, I think it's more about just going to the event and being there, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure. Definitely. So where in the world, I know where you are from, but can you let everybody know where you're from in the world right now?
North Wales, so just south of Wrexham, not far from Chester, not far from Snowdonia, so that kind of part of the world. Yeah.
Yes, I've been up there a few times. I'm from the south of Wales, so it's quite. Chris did mention, he said, could you not go up and meet him for the interview? And I was like, yeah, it's quite far away.
It's not
just a trip around the corner. Yeah. But yes, North Wales is a stunning part of Wales, and Snowdon is an amazing mountain to climb, which I've been up. So yes, and I can see why the scenery and settings that you've used are perfect for your stories.
That's what struck me actually, was when I first moved up here, is that I couldn't find any series of books set in Snowdonia, and I kind of looked around and looked at all the other. There was a lot of series setting, Cornwall or the Highlands of Scotland or Norfolk or wherever it might be, and I kind of went, well, Snowdonia must be crying out for a police procedural set there. So I was lucky no one's done it before. So but it struck me as obvious in some ways.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? What we're going to do is going to play part one video, which is the road to writing, because we definitely want to talk about that and the settings and why you've used all of that stuff in the next section. But we'll do the road to writing. We want to learn a bit more about what led up to where you are now, because that's an amazing journey. So I'll play this video and we'll get into that. Halo said, "Ooh, Snowdonia." Brilliant. So, Simon, if you can remember, I mean, you've done quite a lot of writing in different styles in your career, but when did it become something that was a bit more of a passion or a hobby for you? When did it become kind of a job, essentially?
Oh gosh. I mean, I started writing when I was at university. I wrote a play and took that to Edinburgh. So that was the kind of first time that I wrote anything that was kind of performed. And then I worked as a script editor and did lots of development. So worked with writers for quite a long time. And then about 20 something years ago, I started writing TV scripts for various TV series. So that's when I first started to make a living as a writer. So it's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to go between different writing styles for a lot of people, but you've gone through, as you mentioned, writing plays and screenwriting and novels now. So have you got a favorite kind of writing that you do, or have you kind of enjoyed the journey as it's been throughout?
Yeah, I quite like. I mean, I haven't written a script for a while now, so writing novels, I think the autonomy of writing, the creative kind of freedom of writing a novel is amazing, because, hey, if I want a helicopter chase, then I get a helicopter chase, and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, when you're writing a script, you have to kind of keep that all in mind. And I suppose you're the creative person in a novel, and often when I was writing on TV series, you're kind of fairly low down the pecking order. Especially if it's a big series, then you're sort of just one of the writers on a TV series. So it's been nice to write novels and have that kind of freedom. And often scripts are very much about writing. Often you're sort of writing what's not there, or someone can be talking about a cheese sandwich and actually they're about to get divorced, and you can't write that. Whereas in a novel, you can write about the internal voice, what they're really thinking, how they're feeling, all that kind of stuff, which I quite like. Having spent a lot of time writing scripts, it was nice to go to the novel form and actually be able to write all that stuff in. So at the moment, definitely novels are the best thing for me at the moment, writing wise.
Yeah. It's interesting when you write for scripts, and you mentioned that say for a TV show, that your work might not be, if you're down the pecking order, for example. How does that work? If you think you've got a really valuable piece of writing or a good piece to put towards the story, how does that work? And does it often get overlooked?
Yeah, I mean, on those big series, it's much more about you go in and they'll tell you what they need. So they'll say episode 133, this is what happens. They'll give you an outline. And say this character has to hit this beat, this character has to hit this beat, this is the subplot, and then you can kind of play around with it. But as long, it's in some ways, it's less creative in that way. It's not an original piece. I did a Silent Witness. That was a little bit more kind of there's a little bit more freedom in that, but they still needed those kind of sort of serial beats filling in. So yeah. It's a very different kind of industry and a very different way of sort of writing, really.
Yeah.
Simon, I think I've got like a 2-part question, which is the first: how, this might sound quite naive, but how is it compared to writing scripts, which I assume is done in teams, compared to writing novels, which is, again, I would say, maybe naive, but more individual? And then how did your experience with formulas sort of like adapt or change your approach when it came to writing novels?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, to be fair, you sort of come into a writer's room, and I used to write for something called The Bill, which I don't know if anyone remembers, but that shows my age. I wrote a lot of episodes of The Bill, and we used to get in the writer's room, and there'd be 12 writers, producers, script editors, and everyone would just basically spend the day sort of storylining and throwing stuff around. And then at the end of that, you'd have a page to 2 pages of your idea, but then you would go away and write it on your own. So in that way, you are still writing on your own. I think certainly there's a lot of transferable skills in that. You're writing scenes, you're writing dialogue, you're writing, you understand pace, you understand structure. So I took all that and then just applied that to not writing novels. I think the one massive bonus of writing for I wrote EastEnders and stuff like that is the speed, because you can be there on a Friday thinking that your script's done, and then you get a call from the producer who says, yeah, that scene there, and that character, they've all changed, and we're filming on Monday at 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you change it all? You might have a whole weekend plan.
Wow.
Then you're down, and then you're rewriting a whole script over 2 days, and then they'll come back and want more rewrites. And I think it's an advantage. I've taken that to novel writing, so I sort of write at the same pace, which means
it's amazing, isn't it?
Churn them out pretty quickly, because I was so used to writing fast and rewriting fast that I kind of don't really know how to do it any differently, really.
Yeah. So how is your structure?
Sorry, Chris. No, I was just going to say, how do you know then now? Obviously, if you're writing so fast, and assume the process was, I'm happy with that script, let's send it off. The producer's going to get it and things like that.
Yeah.
And then it comes back and you have to change again.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that process now that you're the person that's pretty much solely in control? And how do you know that the thing that you've wrote is the best version of that, if that makes sense?
I have editors, so I have my own publishing company for the Snowdonia series, and I have an editor, and she reads it and she comes back with notes, and she'll say that scene doesn't work, or that plot point or the ending of that doesn't quite work, or so I get notes. And the same as when I work for HarperCollins on a different series, you get notes from the editor, and normally I have a bit of a tantrum for 24 hours because I'm pretty sure that my first draft is perfect. And then I look at it and think about it and go, actually, all those notes are really good, and they'll basically improve my book. So and I turn it around pretty quickly, and but normally it's only 1 or 2 drafts, and then we're pretty much ready to go.
I think that's a great question, Chris, because there'll be a lot of authors out there, especially first-time authors, perhaps, who are redrafting and just don't know when they feel it's ready to go ahead, if that makes sense. Simon, would you have any tips for someone who might be in that situation?
I would get used to showing your work as quickly as you can, as often as you can, and get past that fear that we all have when we first start writing, that someone's going to read it and they're going to say, give up, or this is rubbish, or whatever it is. But if you really believe that you have the talent, then I would write every day, try and get something down every day, even if it's like 100 words, it doesn't matter, but write every day and then show it to people, whether it's your mate or somebody that you know reads books and maybe in that genre, and you just say, what do you think? And I know my first draft of the Snowdonia Killings was way off. It was more like a screenplay. But my editor was really good with me, and we kind of worked around that. And you have to take a deep breath at some point and just go, show some people, get their reaction. It's difficult. It's really difficult because if you spent that amount of time and you're showing somebody, it's a scary thing to do. But you do have to kind of get used to it if you're going to keep writing books.
Great advice. The Snowdonia Killings, as you mentioned there, that was your first novel released. If I'm right, and that went to #1 in the Amazon charts, became an Amazon bestseller. Did you expect that, and how did you kind of react to that, knowing that became a #1 bestseller?
No, I thought my mum and dad might buy it, and that would be it. And because I did it through my own publishing company, so basically I was, it was kind of technically self-published. I couldn't get a deal with any publishers at that point. So I kind of launched it on Amazon, and if you know anything about that kind of world, you actually have a screen where you can watch the sales come in. And I don't know, the first day it was 100, second day it was 200, and I was just watching it, and then I had to actually get my wife in, thinking there's something wrong. I was like, can you just check this for me, because it just doesn't seem right. By the end of the week, it was like 1,000 copies, and it was like moving up the charts, and I just went, I don't understand what's going on, and sort of had to pinch myself. And then I guess I've just kept doing that. But yeah, when I had no idea. I thought I'd probably sell about 30 copies.
It's done exceptionally well. Did you kind of, is there any sort of, do you know why that happened? I know you were saying that you were quite shocked at it, but was your publishing company really good at marketing to make that happen, or was it just, did you feel it just kind of hit to the right time?
I think there's a kind of perfect storm. I think the title's good. I think the cover's really, really good. I think it's a police procedural with a female detective, set in Snowdonia, where so that anyone with any kind of, a lot of people who have links to North Wales or people who've been on holiday, everyone seems to want to buy it. And those kind of rural, those police procedurals that are set in a picturesque place, they do really, really well. And I was just I kind of like, there was a lot of luck. It just seemed to hit something at that point where all those things came together, and it just started to sell. So
incredible.
That
book currently has on Amazon 26,776 ratings at 4.2 out of 5, which is just incredible.
It's like, it still feels like very surreal when you say stuff like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, go on, Chris. Sorry, jumped in there.
No, I was going to say, how do you decide then, Simon? Obviously, with publishing and writing being a business, obviously that is a very successful business in terms of, you know, like you said, you run the publishing company, and you know you've had a very good degree of success there. So then I'm guessing publishers have approached you because of that success.
Yeah.
How do you decide, right, I'm going to go with them now, or I'm going to stick with what I'm doing because it's working?
Yeah. Again, a really good question. Again, it's almost as though, I mean, I don't know if this sounds pompous, but it's like a loss leader, because when you have your own publishing company, you make a lot of money. You make, because you keep so much of the cover price, especially on the digital side. So when, I mean, HarperCollins went to my agent and said, will he write something for us? And the same with Storm Publishing. They went to my agent and said, will he write something for us? And the money's okay, but it's nowhere near what you get from that. But what it does do is it opens up. So my second book in my Anglesey series with HarperCollins was in Tesco's throughout.
Have we lost?
Indie publishing.
Oh.
Those links are very, very difficult to get.
Yeah, sorry, we missed a couple of about 30 seconds there, Simon. You froze up. You were just at. It's all right. It said the internet connection throughout Wales at the moment, I imagine, with all this random snow we're having right now. The first day of spring, it's snowing in Wales. Yeah, you mentioned it just gone into Tesco's.
Yeah, and then WH Smith's and Waterstones, and you get invited to crime festivals, and you get you have your own press person. So all the kind of trappings that come with being with someone like HarperCollins that I don't get when I run my own publishing company. And you know, they pay for the marketing, they pay for the PR. So I kind of went, let's do that. And so now I'm a hybrid. So I kind of, you know, I write, you know, one book for whoever I'm writing for, and then one book for myself. And because I write quite fast, I'm not making a massive dent in my sort of revenue stream and what I'm producing. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Simon, did you, obviously running a publishing company, like we've talked about it in the past before, about, you know, maybe getting to a point where we can take other people on. Is that something that's crossed your mind, and something that you've done, or something that you're looking to do in the future? And how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, I keep thinking about it, and then I keep getting too scared. Or I think it's because it's the time commitment to read other people's work, to then be confident enough to think that you can then launch them into that arena. So I'm toying with it, I suppose, but it's very, I mean, I'm sort of doing it slowly, and because I'm writing so much, it's that sort of at what point do I kind of make that jump? But you know, all the infrastructure there now. You know, I've sort of got like 7 or 8 people on my team of editor, cover designer, so all that kind of stuff.
If we talk about then your character, D.I. Ruth Hunter, your book series is now coming up to book 18, if I'm correct, and that character has been instrumental throughout. So how did you decide on a character to become that sort of person in your story, and why did you go down and select that type of character, if that makes sense?
I didn't really. I think that I guess I wrote the Snowdonia Killings and thought, as I said, you know, it'll sell for 30 copies and then that'll be it. So she's from South London, and she moves up to Wales because she's had enough of being on the streets of London. It's incredibly dangerous being a detective down there. So she moves to North Wales, where she thinks that she's going to see out her pension and have a nice time. Well, obviously that can't happen. So lots of crimes happen in Snowdonia. But I did that journey. So I've moved from, you know, I was born and bred in South London, but I've moved up here to be with my wife's sort of family, from up here. So I've been the same journey, and I kind of know what the preconceptions are of a South Londoner moving to North Wales, and is it going to be really parochial, and also the kind of preconceptions of anyone from up here if you're from London and all that stuff. It's like it's quite rich, and I just thought it's a really interesting journey. But I was loath to. For some reason, I kind of went, I don't want to write a male detective. I couldn't think of a way of writing an original male detective, and most male detectives I thought of were kind of, I don't know, divorced, worked too hard, bit of a maverick, maybe drinks too much, all that kind of stuff that we've seen before. And I just went, and I had a friend who was, I had a female friend who was gay, and she just got married, but she had been married before and had a child with a man. So I just kind of used that as a sort of, I thought that's an interesting character. And I talked to her about it and got some ideas. And so Ruth, that's Ruth's journey. So I just thought it just felt more original to do it like that.
Yeah. How do you keep the character's arc throughout that many books in the series? And how do you keep true to the character? As in, do you have to keep note of what that character kind of likes or doesn't like? And are you having to remind yourself of where that character is through the journey? Or do you feel like you've got that under control and you know exactly where that character is as you're writing it?
I think I know the characters, the kind of the big stuff. So I know where they are in their journey, and in terms of relationships or career or the really big beats. But I still haven't done it, and I don't have time to do it now. I've never kept a Bible of the details. So sometimes I go, oh my God, what's Ruth's brother called? And I think it might be in book 13, but it may not be. It could be in book 11, and I sort of scramble around for it, and eventually I find it. So I'm not very organized in that way, and that's quite hard to keep going. But I suppose in terms of like the kind of beats of the main characters, stuff just occurs to me as I'm writing the book. I think about the next one, and I think that would be really interesting if, I don't know, this character gets arrested at the end of that book. It'd be a great hook. And let's see what happens next, and all that kind of stuff. So, so far, it seems to be okay.
Simon, obviously, we get a lot of people who watch the show that are after writing advice, and a question that I don't think we've ever asked before is, how do you navigate supporting characters and the secondary characters in a series that has such a longevity? And what advice would you give to somebody about navigating secondary characters and like when to build them and make them more of a
I sort of think it's kind of like it's a team thing, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, sort of most. I've got to know a few kind of police officers. They're like, I've got a friend who's a detective sergeant at Wrexham Police Station, so I often have coffee with him, and we have a chat about stuff. And it's a team. CID is a team. So kind of my cast of characters is about half a dozen. I think any more than that, and you're starting to really stretch it. And they're all really different, but they have to feel authentic. And most of them over those 18 books have had little journeys where, sort of stuff happens about one, someone gets pregnant, or someone's going to get married, or whatever it might be. So those are kind of like slightly more soapy. I
think we froze again. Oh dear. Sorry, guys. It happens. It does happen. Oh, you back, Simon?
Well, he may be able to hear us.
Yes,
so
yes,
he
I
does
think he's
keep
back.
Coming in and out a little bit, but yeah.
Simon, are you there? Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hello. This is very entertaining. Oh dear me, he's gone completely. Brilliant comment in the chat, by the way. I am not a cat. Yeah.
I would just put it up, to be honest, mate. And
oh yeah. CJ is smiling nonstop, and Chris looks like his dog just died. That's brilliant. Simon's relaxed and leaning back. It tells us of his triumphs. You are a very entertaining gentleman. Thank you for that. I mean, Brilliant.
Yeah, and little do they. Oh no, I'm not going to go there.
Go on.
No,
Oh, you were
it's
going to
fine.
say
I'm not gonna.
yeah.
No, I'm not going to go there. You can't kill the dog.
Yeah, we apologise for the network connectivity. Simon is in North Wales, and it is quite a remote place. I'm not saying they've got bad internet, but it could be the case. And he's disappeared. I'm sure he'll come back. But yeah,
last time this happened, we had Will Dean on the show, and he was coming from a cabin in Sweden.
That is
so
true.
It does happen.
although North Wales isn't quite Sweden, but there you go. It's his career, by the way. There's so much he hasn't mentioned, writing shows and things like that. So, 1 second.
Hi, sorry about that.
Woo! It's all right. We're just saying it happens, and it's not a problem.
Must be being in the middle of North Wales, and it really helps when it's normally okay, but I'm guessing it's probably harder to be live online. I'm guessing.
We were just saying that last time it happened, Will Dean was talking to us from a cabin in Sweden, and that was also covered in snow.
Right.
It could be a snow issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember where you were broken up then, Chris. Do you remember?
Yeah, so you just started responding when we were asking about advice for secondary characters and how to build on them, and you were talking about how DCI unit is a team, and then that's when you kind of started to go off a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's just like each character kind of takes it in turn to have a little storyline over a couple of episodes, where it's whether it's personal or like there's one in the last couple of books where someone's had a stalker and she's pregnant, and it's like all that kind of stuff that just kind of goes along with normally you have that stuff, and then you have your crime that starts at the beginning, kind of standard, starts at the beginning, works its way through the arcs that go. Like there was a story arc that started in book 1 in the Snowdonia Killings that resolved until book 10. So
wow,
that kind of kept everyone going. So
yeah. And with that, Simon, with the crime element, like you talked about not being able to think of a way to do an original detective with a male protagonist. How do you do an original crime when literally there's so many things that I think, oh, it's a bit like that, it's a bit like that, it's a bit like that. So how do you put a unique spin on it as a writer?
I'm not sure I do, but lots of research, recent local news stories. There's a local news story about a modern slavery ring up here, and then people being brought in to do that, and I kind of followed that and then wrote a story around that. So, or sometimes I'll go out with this detective sergeant and he'll just start talking about something, and I'll go, "Oh, that's a brilliant idea." So I kind of steal stuff, I guess. And then other stuff just pops in. Like I'll be writing something and I go, that feels that I've seen that somewhere else before, but I'm going to do a different twist on it because that feels a bit obvious. So I guess it just, as you go along, you try and make it as original as you can.
I imagine most things in the world have been covered these days, Chris, haven't they? And it's just a case of adapting it to your own way and telling the story in the style you want to tell it.
And readers do actually, the other thing is that readers kind of want, although they want something original, they don't want anything too original. They want those, when you go to the cinema and you're watching a movie, you kind of want those beats to be hit, and you want to kind of feel something at the end. And the same with the book. You're reading a crime thriller, you kind of have expectations of what you want from it. If you veer too far away from it by being original, I think the audience might be going, "Oh, hang on a second, I sort of wanted it to be a bit more kind of traditional in its kind of the genre kind of conventions."
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think what do you love about the crime genre in itself? And you've written a lot of books in this series around crime as well. You mentioned you're writing a standalone. Is it ever in your mind to drift away from this genre?
No, I think I'm just really lucky that ever since I can remember, I've been slightly obsessed with crime and whodunits and mystery. Even from like being a kid and reading like Enid Blyton, The Secret Seven and stuff. It was like kind of all James Bond books when I was a teenager and stuff. I just kind of like that genre. And if someone said to me, "Do you want to fancy writing a sci-fi?" I'd just be like, "I'm lost." Romance, whatever it is, like I have no idea. So is a
It's gone again. So sorry, guys.
I think the universe wants Simon to write a romance. That's what it's telling us there. That's why it broke off.
Yeah. He's kind of flickering in there. He's smiling.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yay! He's not gone. He's there. Sorry, Simon. This is not usually a bad connection like this, so we apologize.
It may well be my fault, but
Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's the internet's fault, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let's ask a different question. So, if you were to write a romance,
oh God,
what would you do it on?
I think if I wrote a romance, it would have some kind of dark crime element or a psychological element. So I don't think I'd be. I'd be lost. I'd be literally lost. I think I spent all my life, which is slightly worrying. I spent all my life watching crime, reading crime, immersed in crime. So it just becomes like part of your sort of self.
Is there any way you won't go, Simon, in crime in terms of? Is there anything you thought of and you thought, "Oh, hang on a minute, no, I'm not going to do that," or anywhere that you think, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable going into that space"?
I try and avoid the kind. I suppose I have a certain taste in. I'm not that mad about the stuff where it's really gruesome and you kind of go in and stuff that I kind of feel. I suppose what I want my books to feel is authentic, so that if a crime will feel like it can really happen. And there is a place for it, but I read other books where someone's body's being chopped up and they've been sewn together and then they've been hung off a sort of rafters of a church, and I kind of go, okay, I'm not sure. For me, in terms of my taste, I go, that doesn't happen. So I kind of lose. I want to be, when I'm watching a drama on TV or reading a book, I want to be immersed to the point where I think this feels real, whether I know it's not. So I kind of try and keep it within the sort of realms of realism.
While we're on the topic of realism, in your opinion, from your research that you've done as a writer, which location has the better, and I say that in inverted commas, crimes? Wales, where you live now, or South London?
Yeah. I don't think that was a pondering face. That's just a frozen face.
Oh, South London has much better crimes. I mean, there isn't very much crime in. There isn't very much crime in. Well, I mean, at the Wrexham, there's a bit of crime. Yeah, I suppose.
I think that's pretty speaks for itself, Chris.
No, but I mean, like, obviously, within Wales, obviously, a much more secluded location. So I can imagine the crimes are probably a bit more sporadic, but you could have a really serious hostage style situation where somebody's captured for 6 months and nobody knows because they, again, we mentioned Will Dean before because of the internet connection, but he wrote a novel called The Last Thing to Burn.
There is.
Yeah, I was going to say he wrote a novel called The Last Thing to Burn, and there was a situation like what I was just described, and obviously that's very horrific, and I don't think that could happen in a location such as like South London, because obviously it's more built up and people would probably know us.
Yeah, no, definitely. There are definitely crimes that lend themselves to being in the middle of nowhere, like Snowdonia, which is sort of remote and agricultural, and there are definitely huge advantages of having great big swathes of mountains and valleys and lakes and stuff that Peckham doesn't really have. So I think it's definitely worth, that's what drew me to it, I suppose, because there's a specific sort of crime, and it's probably more interesting than a lot of what I didn't want to write about is gang violence. Other people write. It's not about that stuff.
Yeah, we heard you say you didn't want to write about gang violence, and then we heard.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, Simon.
And I said it's just like more rural. I'm drawn to rural stuff.
Yeah. I mean, on that comment, Chris, there's like 3 million people in Wales, and there's 11-ish in London alone, so 11 million. So that speaks for itself in terms of what could happen. But yeah, you're right. I think the remote ability, is that a word? I don't think so. How remote Wales is, or North Wales is. You talked about the settings earlier. I'm kind of not surprised that no one's really written about up in North Wales in that sense, but I can see why you did take that on and write about all those areas. Is there any specific place that's really, in terms of like maybe historical or just kind of environment that you've been in North Wales that's really taken you by surprise?
There's a place that actually was my last book, The Drowning Isle, which came out as an Anglesey book 4. And there's a tiny island off of Anglesey, which is obviously an island off North Wales. And it's kind of got this druid ruins of an old church that goes back to 600, and it's got a kind of Celtic cross, and it's got this kind of just like other stuff going on, and it's really creepy, and it's got some really disused kind of fisherman cottages on it. And I visited it and walked around it and went, okay, this is literally perfect for a crime and for finding a body and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes that works out really well, because I just went, yeah, this is a gift.
That's amazing. I love spooky places. Okay, Chris, we're going to have to move on to part 2 of the show because we pushed this on a little bit. What's the story after this little video plays, Simon? I'm assuming you want to talk about the Chester Killings, which is out this month. So once we play this video, can you please tell everyone what that book's all about? Part 2 coming up. So, Simon, what's the story, please?
What's the story of the Chester Killings? Trying to want to give out too much away. Series of killings are mainly around the towpaths of the canals in Chester. And as they start to investigate, actually, I'll tell you what.
Sorry, Simon, we lost you a bit there again.
Yeah, it's a great way to promote a book, because start off with the Chester Killings are about this. You need to go and buy it and read it yourself.
Yep. Okay.
But the Chester Killings, I love that cover.
It is very appealing.
Yeah, that hot pink just really does pop.
It does pop. And he is popping off the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, I just put in the comments, guys, and sorry on the podcast if you're hearing this and it's a bit spluttery. We've had over 300 shows. We're season 13, episode 14 today. And this has happened maybe 3 times in total, including today. So it's not often, and we do apologize. And he's back. Yes.
Okay, so I'm about to pitch you the idea for Chester Killings, or what happens. Please. So, a body is discovered, and the border between Wales and England runs through the middle of Chester. In fact, Chester Football Ground's pitch is in Wales, which they're not very happy about because there's a massive rivalry. But anyway, that's a different story. So the body is found halfway in England, halfway in Wales. I may have borrowed that from somewhere else. And so Ruth Hunter is called because she's in Wales, but she has to work with Chester police. So I kind of thought, well, that's kind of interesting. And as they start to investigate of murders of men who have been charged. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear us?
We got a selection of men who have been charged.
Yeah, that's as far as we got, Simon. I really can't apologize enough for this broken interview.
But I do think that's a great cliffhanger. You know, yeah. Ruth has to work with Chester and she's from Wales, and they got the rivalry, and then
charged.
A series of men have been charged. With what? With what? I hear the audience say. Well, if you want to know, go and buy Chester Killings and read it, and then you'll know.
He's going again. Oh, yeah. Charged by what, Chris? Charged by what? Is it
charged with what? That's the thing. I'm thinking
charged by bulls. I'm going to say. Oh, we got two Simons.
We have two Simons now.
Oh, God. We don't want that.
We got as far as got charged, Chris, Simon, and we were discussing charged by what was quite interesting.
These guys have been charged with sexual assault or rape, but the charges have been dropped.
Ooh.
In very, very recently, and someone is targeting these guys. So that's where the plot develops. I can't really tell you any more than that, apart from that's how we start it off. So
yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting because I think it's not very popular, obviously, but it's quite topical in the sense that there's a lot of cases going on around the world at the moment in the mainstream media of people being charged with allegations and then and being dropped as well. So I think that's quite topical and is quite an interesting element to put into a crime story. So I think that is a very original in that sort of premise. So yeah.
Well, I suppose the more I read about it, the more I can see is that, you know, the number of, I don't know, the number of people charged with rape who then eventually kind of serve prison time is, I think it's about 1%.
Wow.
So you kind of go 1 in 100 people that basically are accused of rape go to prison. So you kind of go, what happens to the other 99? And so that started my ball rolling. I'm thinking, well, if you're one of the victims, how does that make you feel? And then I just kind of went, and I wonder how the police and the CPS feel when these guys that they are 99% certain are guilty are kind of swanning out, going, right, well, the charges are dropped. So I just suddenly went, there's something really interesting in that story.
Well, I know you mentioned that you have your detective friend.
Yeah.
Now you're considering writing between the borders as in England and Wales police detectives. Did you have any more kind of behind the scenes knowledge from somebody to help you to see if there are any differences in the services?
I did ask him, and he didn't seem to think there were huge amounts. He did think that people, I should probably say this, but he seemed to think that the people from England might look down on the Welsh as being slightly parochial and yokel locals, and so. But I didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
But he seemed to think there might be that sort of thing going on, and and vice versa. That the Welsh, someone working in the North Wales police might think that someone from England's arrogant. So, but I think that's kind of.
It's been a long rivalry between Wales and England. I don't think there's
a lot of rivalry up here.
Yeah.
Simon, how do you feel about the fact that you do have to portray law enforcement in your books, knowing that the general public who are not involved in the police are going to be reading them and having a certain perception of the police, and then there's probably a lot of police officers that are reading the books with their own interpretation of what the police are like and how they handle things. So how do you navigate the two sides in terms of, are you like hyper aware of, obviously you said you've got friends in the police and stuff as well. Are you aware of their reality and try and portray that to its most authentic self? Or are you playing on a bit of both between what the general public conception of the police is and what you want to try and convey?
That's interesting. When I was talking to my mate, basically, you know, when I first did something about a corrupt police officer, I had to kind of run it past him, and I kind of I thought he might get slightly upset, but actually he just went, well, no, you know, there are X thousand police officers in this country, you know, and just because there is some corruption, that's what you find in any huge, great big public body. So he went, it does happen. So there are corrupt police officers, and you know, we've seen some terrible cases of police officers, you know, doing some pretty horrendous stuff. So my books portray both sides. I've had police officers committing murders. I've had police officers being corrupt, and then, you know, but my main characters are are the good guys, I suppose, within the Force. So kind of like a balance.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Chris. Okay, 10 minutes to go. What I'd like you to do in the chat, please, have a think of some questions for Simon and pop them in the chat and hit enter, and they shall come through to us. But we'll go on to part 3, and we will ask our staple questions and hopefully get some interesting answers from our guest Simon, and see what comes up. So please send some questions in, and I'll play part 3, which is community questions. I moved on a bit quick there as well, because the Chester Killings is out, I believe, in the UK on the 27th of March, which is very soon. I'm assuming it can be pre-ordered now.
It can be, yes.
The link is in the description, so please pick that up. But also, is it out in the US at the same time?
Yeah, same day.
Okay, so you guys from the US, it is out on the 27th of March, so you can certainly pick that up. Chris, do you want to start us off with some staple questions, please?
Yeah, so one of the first staple questions that we have is, if you could take any character from fiction and make that character your own, which character would you choose and why?
Gosh. I've just been reading some of the Michael Connelly's Bosch books, Harry Bosch books, which I absolutely love. So it would be great for Harry Bosch to be working up in Snowdonia with the North Wales Police. I just think that'd be really interesting. I think that's quite a nice sort of like someone from LA, and the kind of the cultural differences. I think would be really interesting about how he finds it. So yeah, no, I'd do that.
Yeah,
brilliant.
I like that.
Yeah, I love Michael Connelly. I've met him a couple of times and tried to get him on the show, but that's not happened yet. But he is a lovely guy, and brilliant writer, as you say.
Yeah. Going back to the settings, obviously I'm a big fan of the setting, that being a Welshman. Is there somewhere else in the world that you would think, I'd love to go there? Like maybe your detective took a holiday and something went terribly wrong. Would you like to go to a setting somewhere in the world? Where would that be?
Ruth Hunter has been to Paris for a whole book 10. I'd love to do something set in America, because to be honest, all my favorite writers are American. I kind of love all the kind of noir books and James Ellroy and George Pelecanos and those guys. So
nice.
Yeah, it would be nice to write something based in America, or at least put one of my books there. But
yeah,
we shall see.
At least for the research trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay, if you could take the ending of anything, and this can be a TV show, a movie, or a book, and change the ending, what ending are you going to change?
Oh, that's a good question. There was a TV series, one of my favorite, if not my favorite ever police procedural, was Unforgotten, with Nicola Walker. And this might be a plot spoiler, but she doesn't make it through the series 4 and is replaced. And I just thought she was amazing. So I'm going to save her at the end of series 4, and then she can be in series 5. So
nice.
But that's
I've not seen that.
It's brilliant. If you love police procedural drama, it's probably one of the best I've seen.
Nice.
Yes, excellent choice, Simon. I am not a cat said. And Anna says, where in America would you set it if you were going to go to America?
Deep South. I love the like the True Detective, the first series.
Brilliant.
Memphis, Tennessee, kind of Arkansas, all those kind of places that are, there's a real kind of, there's an atmosphere to it. New Orleans as well. All that stuff there is it's a gift for a writer. Some swamp corpses, yes, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
On, one of the final staple questions that we have before we go and get some of the questions that are coming up in the chat is, again, a bit of a morbid one, but we're looking back on your writing career. You're on your deathbed. What would you be happy with? What is success to you?
Well, when I was younger, I wanted to be Martin Scorsese, but that hasn't happened. So, and I wanted to win an Oscar, so that's not going to happen. But I mean, success. I'm looking back now, if I'm, because I'm kicking on a bit anyway. But I think I'm going to be like a bit of a hippie and go, do you know what? I get to sit at home and write books, and I get to walk my dog in the North Welsh countryside, and my kids are happy and hell. I just kind of go, I'll take all that.
Yeah.
I don't really want any more. As long as it's, if I can continue for the next 10 years writing crime books and paying the bills and doing, nice stuff like this, then I'm going to be very, very happy. So,
nice
I'm happy
answer.
with my lot.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question actually before about, do you go on dog walks? Because when I've had a dog and we've gone on dog walks, like my mind always goes to crime. Yeah. Always. So like I'll be walking, and if the dog does something a bit strange or a bit like, out of the ordinary, like
there's a body.
She's found something. Like
it's always a dog walker, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you find that your mind goes that way? And have you had any good ideas from stories from like maybe going on a dog walk or the seemingly like mundane elements of life that just spark something really interesting?
Yeah, I do ruin every family trip to Snowdonia by going, oh, that'd be a great place for a body. And they're like, the kids and my wife are like, really? It's like a nice sunny day. And I do remember going on Harlock Beach, and Harlock Beach is beautiful, but it's it's like massive dunes. And so my second book was set there because I went for a day trip to Harlock and went, this is a perfect place for bodies and crime and slightly warped dark sense of humor, really, but I guess that's why I write.
Definitely. Yeah, great place to hide a body, San Jude. Not speaking from experience, that sounded weird. Okay, we got some questions from the audience. I am not a cat. Thank you for joining the show and giving me questions. I think it's the first time we've seen you here, so thank you. The question is, what are your 3 to 5, a bit random, most successful books? Maybe top 3.
Well, Snowdonia Killings has sold more than any because it's been out the longest. I mean, it's going to be really boring, but because of the way way they sell, it's the first 3 books in the Snowdonia series have sold the most. So, unfortunately, that's just the way it works.
Yeah. So if you're new to Simon McCleave, book 1, 2, 3, get going.
Yeah.
In that order. Obviously. Halo says, what's the strangest conversation you've had with one of your police sources?
Oh, God, that's a good question. It's often about where the strangest places they've found bodies, like under patios or that kind of thing, or where they found bits of bones in a pig farm on Snowdonia. And they'd assumed that someone had been basically chopped up and chucked in there, and they'd found like some teeth and stuff. So, yeah, that kind of stuff is pretty dark.
Yeah,
but it's always good. I kind of go, that's great. That's great stuff for books.
It is because they're the things that I've always said that crime novelists must have the most dodgy internet search history.
Yeah,
especially if the police were to seize that computer and look at that search history, they'd be like, "Hang on."
I know. Yeah, I'm going away if they see that my search history.
Have you ever had a moment with a police officer where they've gone, you can't write about this because it's like next level, but this happened?
So far, no. All that happens is that sometimes I'll ring up my detective sergeant and I'll say, look, they're going to do this, and he'll go, oh, hang on.
Yeah.
And then he'll go, and then I'll say, okay, how do we make that work? And he'll say, well, if they went this way and then they did the arrest that way, then you could get away with it. So I'll go with one, with a storyline, and then he'll say, okay, this is how we can make this work without it being too far-fetched. So,
did you know your connection before you kind of worked with him in that sense?
Yes, yeah, I'd known him before that, although it didn't really strike me till I wrote the first book, and then I went, oh, I know who I'll ask on this.
I'm just wondering, because there's lots of people who like to start writing crime novels out there. So if they weren't to know somebody, do you think there's a way to approach them to ask?
There might be. I mean, they seem to love reading crime books and watching crime on TV, I think they kind of get a kick out of it. So it would definitely be worth asking around.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
And Simon, I've got a question, because obviously you used to write for TV and and screenplays and scripts and stuff.
Yeah.
But if you could bring to life something that has never been on screen before, what would you choose and why?
Do you mean something I've written?
It could be something you've written or something somebody else has written that you think would be great and work really well on television, or the big screen. But you would be the screenwriter for. So, somebody else may have written the book, but you'd get to bring it to the screen.
I'm not sure. I've read Cara Hunter's books are very good. Cara Hunter, she writes books set in Oxford. And Close to Home was a fantastic book set there, and that's never been filmed. I'd definitely love that to be filmed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to say her books generally should be on the screen.
I mean, your books are in production at the moment, are they, or have they been optioned?
The script for the Snowdonia Killings, there should be a first draft literally any week now for that, and then there's a kind of collaboration of various production companies, and there's an actress attached to it, and so, but we shall see.
Have you had any? Rolling. Yeah, have you had any input into that at all, or would you consider that if that was a choice?
Well, actually, the strange story was that I can't name the actress because I will get told off. And but anyway, a famous British actress. She took the Snowdonia Killings on holiday, and then she sent me a message via Instagram, which I thought was a hoax, saying, "I've read your book. I want to option it, and I want to be Ruth Hunter." And at first, I just thought this has got to be a mate winding me up. And then I realised by looking that actually this was true, and so she optioned it through her production company. And then there's a production company from Cardiff, and then there's All Three Media involved. So various people as a screenwriter are involved. So we shall see. It's all going in the right direction.
Amazing. That's incredible.
My mind instantly went to an actress, but I'm not going to say it, because if I'm right, then I could ruin things. Or
comment.
I'd be very surprised.
I mean, I'll say it afterwards. But yeah, I don't know why she just popped in my head, and I thought, maybe I should ask
if they need some extra dead bodies, I'll be one. Okay. Yeah. So before we wrap this up, we have gone over slightly. So Simon, what I'd like to say is thank you so much for joining us. But before we do go, where can people find all of your books, the amazing series you've created? Where can they find out more about you, and where can they follow you on social medias, for example?
All the books are on Amazon. You can get the paperbacks from Waterstones. SimonMcCleave.com is the website, and Simon McCleave author on Instagram and Facebook. And I kind of update people there. And I've got a VIP email club, so if you join that, you will get 2 free books that feature Ruth Hunter. So 2 free novellas, let's say. So if you're looking for some free books, then go onto my website and join my VIP club.
Sounds good. I like that idea.
Are you on the socials as well, Simon? In terms of have you ventured into Substack yet, or?
No. I dabbled in TikTok to the amusement of my kids, but no, I'm sticking with Facebook. But my demographic's pretty old, so it's like I'll stick with Facebook and Instagram is about as far as I've got.
Yeah, I think we dabbled in too many socials. I think, Chris, we need to back off.
Yeah, no, I love Substack as an author. I think anyone who loves writing and writing at the speed and veracity that Simon does, I think you could build quite a good Substack following quite quickly.
I'll have a look.
Yeah. It's very intimate in terms of the people on there. I think it's a better place than Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that, because it's people who are interested in reading and writing. And I think the audience is a bit more authentic.
Well, thank you for the tip. I'll definitely have a look at that. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris definitely uses that more productively than I do. Okay, Simon, thank you so much. We apologize for the connection issues. Despite that, it has been a wonderful show, and you've been a fantastic guest.
Thank you.
is absolutely wonderful. And yeah, if I ever venture to North Wales, I'm sure I'd love to
look me up.
you.
Brilliant.
Yeah. It's not that far, Chris, but it is. But apart from that, yeah, thank you so much. Have a great weekend, and enjoy your week off. It sounds like you really earned that.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
all right,
good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Chris. I hope Harry Kane gets a hatful for you so you can cheer.
Yeah, the way he's been scoring, he will. Thank you very much, Simon. Take it easy. Have a great weekend. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please hit the like button, leave a comment in the description, and stay safe over the weekend, but have a lovely weekend as well. From us, it's goodbye. We'll see you very soon. If you're joining us on Patreon, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Bye-bye, everybody.